Welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder. As a health, wellness, and sports performance coach, my goal each week is to bring you experts to help you take control of your health and build your self-confidence. Thanks for including me today on your journey to better health. I want to say thank you to Social Media Cowboys for sponsoring this week's episode of the Confidence Through Health podcast. If you need help with a website, if you need social media needs for your business, if you need help with AdWords, SEO, all those things that you know you should be doing, but you are too busy to do or you're too confused about, they are the experts that you need in your corner. If you're interested in launching a podcast, such as mine, they help me edit my podcast and do a fantastic job making sure that all of the technical side of it is handled and we launch a nice, neat, edited podcast episode each week. So I want to thank Social Media Cowboys for their continued sponsorship of the Confidence Through Health podcast. You can find them at socialmediacowboys.com, or you can find them as well with other sponsors at confidencethroughhealth.com. Well, Michael, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jerry. This is a wonderful opportunity.
And well, like I was telling you a little bit before, is I love having someone like yourself on because not only you're an expert and passionate about what you do and helping people and the way that you help people, but you've lived a personal story through that. And so that connection and can resonate with people a little bit better, I think. Before we get into the Be Limitless and Be Love book and movement that you've got going, tell us a little bit about why you decided to do what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. I'd love to. Well, very candidly, my mother was my greatest source of inspiration. Mm-hmm. She was a first generation Mexican American. I was raised in Topeka, Kansas. She had a high school education. Mm-hmm. She married a gentleman who was an American, German, Irish, something kind of background.
Right.
She had 4 kids in 2.5 years, divorced him. Have a younger twin brother and sister, and then a brother that's 11 months younger than those two.
Right.
So she had 4 kids in diapers and divorced my father, moved in with her father briefly. And she was told by her father, her sisters, everyone that there's no way that she could raise 4 kids by herself.
Right.
We moved out of their place fairly quickly. I don't know the reasons why.
Sure.
And we moved into a converted garage.
Okay.
So one big room, kind of like one big stove as heat. I started grade school, had to walk by myself. My mother kind of bit her pride, went on to public assistance. We went into public housing. By the time I was in junior high school, she had gotten off of that assistance. Right. She got involved in the community. And she was involved with the Legal Services Corporation of Topeka. In 1979, she was nominated to the National Board of Directors for the Legal Services Corporation.
Wow.
Yeah, she was appointed by Jimmy Carter. Mm-hmm. And the chairman of the board of Legal Services Corporation was Hillary Clinton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, even though she was told, she wasn't going to really amount to much, that her children weren't going to amount to much, we would be in prison, alcoholic, whatever.
Right.
Of my mother's sisters, 5 sisters and her, we are the most highly educated. There's 4 of us who have master's degrees or above.
Wow.
One brother has his JD. Mm-hmm. We're the most successful. My mother told me that you can do anything that you put your mind to if you just believe in yourself and you apply yourself.
Right.
So that's kind of what started this journey. And then along the way, I mean, I've had my trials and tribulations. I don't know if you want to
Sure.
know about
Sure.
those,
Yeah.
but I finally got my act together. And, I got my bachelor's degree in social work. Senior year was on the Dean's Honor Roll,
Nice.
master's in clinical psychiatric social work from the University of Kansas, your Texas A&M. I'm
Yep.
sorry to hear that.
Yep.
Okay, aside from that, but
Right.
so had a really high GPA, and
Yeah.
I did that for 12 years, kind of got burnt out on that, went into selling insurance, always kept reading and kind of stayed abreast of what's going on in the mental health field.
Yeah.
And now that I'm not a young man, I'm
Right.
67 years old and
Yeah.
semi-retired. I've always wanted, and I found that, and we'll talk about it, that my calling is to help people
Yeah.
through social work, through insurance, and now with this book, what I want to do is to give back.
Yeah.
Give of my journey, my knowledge. Um, that's kind of how I came to want to do this.
Nice. Well, and so there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on there, but one of the things that I think is hugely important that you said is like you found your passion and it's helping people. And I think, one of the things that in my church a couple of weeks ago, our pastor was talking about having a personal mission statement, and he gave his, and it was like long, da 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 da. And I was like, I think that scares people because you hear a company's mission statement, and it's usually super long, and it's got all these different things in it. And I like yours is nice and succinct. I want to help people, right?
Yeah,
And mine's nice and succinct. It's like I want to make an impact in someone's life.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it could be anything, and I try to live by that on a daily basis of like who did I impact today? And if I put my head on the pillow at the end of the night and I can go like, I made an impact in this person's life and helped them along their path, then I did
Yeah.
my job.
Yeah. It was a successful day, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
One
Um,
of the Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, 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 go ahead, please, please.
Well, I was going to say one of the things that you said, which I love, is your mom told you that you could be anything if you applied yourself. And that's another thing that I think that a lot of people, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with the Be Limitless concept of what you're doing. And I'm assuming it's coming from that same thing of like, don't limit what the possibilities are.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There are ways that people can be limitless in a positive
Mhm.
manner, and that I've learned. And you'll see in the book, it's very where I don't focus on people's gender or
Mhm.
religion or race, because these needs that we all have are universal.
Right.
And what I've found through my own journey and readings and things like that, where I came up with the concept of be limitless, be love, is that by being loving, and I go into the definition of healthy love versus self centered love
Right.
in the short story about the heart, um, is that if you do this in a positive way, then the more loving you are, then the more limitless you're going to find
Mhm.
your life in all these different needs that you're trying to meet for affiliation, for
Yeah.
finding your calling, for being a part of a group, for meeting your needs, self-esteem,
Right.
your unique place in the world.
Yeah.
So,
But how much of that starts with self-love,
yeah, it is.
right?
It's it's the self-love. You have to love yourself. You have
Yeah.
to respect yourself. You have to take care of your mind, body, soul,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And there's spirituality too in
Sure.
that. You have to
Sure.
take care of your spiritual self. And so as you take care of yourself, then hopefully you're going to extend that to others.
Right.
And then if you run across people who are of a similar mindset, then you're going to help each other realize what your calling
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
what your goals are, support each other. So it's just, there's just no end to what a person can accomplish.
Right. But so is that something that the self-love piece and I would say it's something that probably a lot of people in the mental health world has probably seen for a long time. It's like the inability to find that, but it whether that was the trigger for the issues or it's a result of the issues of like, oh, I'm just in a depressed state and I just can't find a reason to love myself and things like that that people go through. Um, but I think we all know that the shutdown of the world a couple of years ago, like brought mental health to the forefront, right? And it showed so many reasons for, or not reasons for, but so many things that were going on as far as people not knowing who they were, not loving themselves, not having relationships that were healthy to be able to fall back on when you're
Yep.
shut in, and when you can't find those things, it does make it difficult to be able to see what the possibilities are actually out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, what I have seen in others, and I mean, it's been a while since I was in the mental health field,
Mhm.
so I can't give advice in
Right,
that direction or do therapy,
right,
but I can, talk about concepts and
sure.
give suggestions and things like that. Is a lot of people, depending on their environment in which
Mhm.
they were raised, they're exposed to positive affirmations from their environment,
Mhm.
especially their parents or
Right,
caregivers.
right.
And that then most of us know that from age infancy to age 6 is where the basic personality is formed.
Right.
So if you get these messages that you're worthwhile and you have something to contribute and things like that, then that helps build some of your basic self-esteem.
Yeah.
If you're always told that you're bad or be quiet or go away or you're wrong or things like this, then those things get implanted into your head.
Yeah.
And then you have to like dig yourself out
Right.
once you get out of that environment and grab onto other healthier ways of seeing yourself and
Mhm.
seeing the world.
Mhm.
So then that perpetuates itself on, and you
Right.
can either progress, stay the same, or digress.
Right. Well, and I would imagine in both in the professional world that you've been in, but also just the people that you've known, friends, family, and things like that, that you've seen people that are like stuck in this, you know, I'm limited, I can't do these things, I can't, there's no possible avenue. Um, and like you said, I think a lot of times it is that environment and learned, and I relate this to nutrition because I work a lot with a lot of people in nutrition that a big piece of obesity and the issue there is not necessarily genetic. It's more, what did you learn to eat when you were younger, right? And if you learn to eat these foods, it's not necessarily genetic that just because your parents are overweight that you have to be overweight. Parents are overweight because the way they ate and they taught you how to eat that way. And it seems like it's pretty similar as far as the way we limit ourselves. If our parents thought that they were limited and couldn't perceive moving past things, it's gonna be hard for us to do that, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. And again, back to my mother. I mean, she took us from a garage.
Yeah.
My first baby bed coming from the hospital,
Mhm.
really, this is what she told me, was the top drawer of a three drawer, you know, three drawers
Yeah.
setup.
Dresser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she a dresser drawer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she put a pillow in there,
Wow.
and that was my first baby bed.
Yeah.
But my mother, she wasn't raised that way. She was raised middle class,
Mhm.
but she had a lot of negativity from her father when
Yeah.
she was growing up. But somehow she developed this rebellion
Mhm.
to the messages that she was being told.
Yeah.
One of my stories is when I was in high school, when I was a senior, the counselor, he was in the hall, he was talking to this other guy about going to college.
Mhm.
And so I walked up to him and I said, well, sir, when are we going to get together and talk about me going to college? he looked me dead in my eyes and he said, son, college is not for you.
Oh,
You need
wow.
to go find yourself a trade. And he
Wow.
walked away. I I took that as a personal offense.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
didn't let it sink into me, oh, this guy's an authority figure and, he's a
Right.
counselor. And so maybe I ought to forget about it. Oh, no, I took my mother's teachings,
Yep.
right? It's like, you tell me I can't do something. Well, I'm going to show you that I can.
Right.
And so then people are able to overcome really horrible upbringings and things like
Mhm.
that because somehow through the grace of God or etc. They got this message that they are worthwhile people,
Right.
and then they got themselves into environments where other people started to see them in a way similar to how they saw themselves,
Mhm.
and so they were able to go on and accomplish great things.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, it makes me think of one of the things that I tell a lot of people is like if somebody else is doing it or has already done it, then that should show that it's possible for you, right? And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's right. It's not going to be exactly the same path and all those kinds of things, but don't get stuck in this, oh, well, I'm only going to be able to live in this kind of house, or I'm stuck in this kind of job, or, this kind of relationship, or, whatever the topic or area of your life is. It's if somebody else is able to do it, then the possibility is there. It's just a matter of are you willing to think that it's possible? Right?
right.
That's a big piece of it. And two, are you
Yep.
willing to take the steps to actually get there?
Yep. Exactly. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
That was kind of my path, my mother's path, my siblings' path. Um, we found ways to get to the right people, the right institutions, and then we took the opportunities and we made the best of it. I mean, mine was, not a easy straight journey. I mean,
Right.
I my first year at the end of the first year of my college experience,
Mhm.
I had a whopping 1.5 grade point average.
Yeah.
I was busy, doing other things like
Right.
partying and
Yeah.
chasing females and
Right.
things like that. And I I didn't really know if I belonged
Yeah.
there, right? So I
Yeah.
dropped out, and then I wandered
Yeah.
for a few years, and I kind of
Yeah.
went back and then left, and then and then after 3, 4, 5 years, then I finally hit bottom,
Right.
and I had to make a decision. It's like, am I going to continue down this path and just deal with being mediocre and
Mhm.
really not accomplishing anything? Or am I going to go back to my home and actually try to apply myself?
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it becomes self-perpetuating. And that's
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
what the Be Limitless, Be Love is as you start to believe in yourself and you do it in a loving way and you get that love from other people, then that reinforces in you, well, hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe I,
Right.
can get this better job. Maybe, I deserve to be in a better house or make more
Mhm.
money or get a better connection with my family, my
Mhm.
friends, society. I don't have to just settle for what I have. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that, and I know that, and why I used Maslow
Mhm.
is that he talks about there being this push pull between wanting to be safe
Mhm.
where we're at
Yeah.
because it's known,
Right.
right? And you'll see and in the book, I mean, one of my chapters, the one about the monarch, um, one of the biggest things that prevents people from advancing is fear.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Just that
Yeah.
word,
Yep.
fear.
Yep.
Fear of the unknown, fear of failure,
Yep.
Why should I try? What if I fail?
Yeah.
Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Why don't I just stay right here and
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
safe? And
Yep.
so what, I make $15 an hour and live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my wife and 2 kids. That's
Yeah.
okay. It's safe. It's no.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to overcome that fear,
Mhm.
overcome that fear of, like me, like, do I deserve this?
Yeah.
Can I really do this? Is it possible?
Right.
So if you can overcome fear, then you take a step forward, but then at some point, you're probably going to pause or go
Mhm.
backwards. And
Yeah.
it's this constant push pull. But in Maslow and other psychologists and such, there's this basic belief that human beings want to progress
Right. Yep.
versus regress.
Mhm.
So that's part of, wow, I guess I don't know if we're talking about that yet, but
Yeah.
that's part of the whole philosophy of the book, is to get people to see we have these competing needs.
Mhm.
Like some kids, and why I targeted it towards teenagers, is teenagers, that's just a natural stage in life where they question everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I've got two of them right now.
Oh, I feel for you.
Yep.
Right. So they're that's it. Why should I listen to you, Dad?
Yep.
Why should I go to school? Why should I become anything?
Yep.
Why, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a good time for them to become aware that they have these competing needs. Like it's okay to want the newest iPhone.
Sure.
That might be part of what their whole group
Mhm.
has,
Yeah.
and they want to be a part of the group, but yet they still want to be a part of you and your
Mhm.
family. They want to listen to the group and do what the group does,
Mhm.
and think like they think, but they still want to be a part of what you taught them, how
Right.
you raised them. They want to find their own unique place in this world,
Mhm.
and they don't know how to do it, or what's a healthy way to
Right.
go about looking at all these competing needs. Like, God, I should stay home and study and get a 4.0 grade point average. But if I do that, then I'm going to miss this party.
Right.
Well, what do I do?
Right.
I have these competing
Yeah.
desires, needs.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Um, well, and that's that, and that could go beyond the teenage high school years, because I think a lot of people get and use the word stuck is the the opposition of limitless, is that you're in that group of and not that having the same friends forever is not a bad thing. It's not, if it's positive and healthy in a good group, right? If the whole
right.
group is growing and progressing, then that's a really healthy relationship area and bonding area, and that's going to help you, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
if you're in that position where it's like, if somebody from the outside can look in and say like, well, yeah, you're complaining about the same things that all those people are complaining about, you need to find yourself some new friends,
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
open the doors and support you. And sort of like what you were saying about with your mom is like, oh, if you're not going to tell me that's possible, then I'm going to go over here and do my own thing and make the path happen.
Yeah. That's what I had to do personally when I was late teens, early 20s. When I went back from New Mexico, I somehow managed to get enough credits to be a junior.
Hmm.
Still don't know quite how I did that, but
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And so when I went back to Topeka, I totally disassociated myself from the people that I had hung around with before I left.
Yeah.
I would still see them at functions, but then they kind of looked at me and they told me, it's like, oh, so you think you're too good for us now?
Mm.
And I'm like, well, no, not too good for you. It's just I'm trying to accomplish something here.
Right.
I'm trying to get a college degree,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
and you guys are busy doing what you're doing, the same thing you were doing 4 years ago,
Yeah.
8 years ago. And
Right.
I think I could do something a little bit different than that. I don't know if it's more, but it was different, and to try to develop my talents and my
Right.
abilities.
Yeah.
And so I had to let them go. And
Yeah.
so the same thing with that, like you said, with adult friends, you get into the same group and you're all complaining about how bad your kids are,
Right.
right? There are drinking and drugging and,
Right.
skipping school and all these kind of things. And it's like, you all talk about your parenting styles and they're all similar.
Hmm.
And so nothing changes.
Right.
So you just continue to complain and complain, and the kids grow up and hopefully they turn out okay.
Right.
Huh?
Yep.
Whereas if you, extend yourself, expand yourself, because we have this basic desire to grow and to learn and to advance. And so then you start reading a couple of psychology books. You take this Be Limitless, Be Love book, and you and your kids talk about the chapters, and
Right.
you kind of say, well, how does this relate to you? Because it's really not threatening at all.
Yeah.
It's just, here's the story. And, one of the kids is being bullied some. Another is in inpatient alcohol and drug treatment program,
Hmm.
right? At age
Yep.
16.
Yep.
I used to work in that part of the mental health field. So I
Yeah.
know that happens,
Yep. Right.
So it's a non-threatening way to kind of open up topics and then look at, well, okay, so what's going on here?
Yeah.
What needs are these people, these teenagers trying to meet?
Hmm.
And how come they're kind of off the rails?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And where are you at with this?
Hmm.
Or maybe something less threatening. Any of your friends or friends of friends that
Right.
are doing this stuff? And,
Yeah.
how are you able to avoid that? And just instill in them the kind of positive, healthy, loving, okay,
Yep.
interactions for themselves and how you treat them. And then it just becomes self-perpetuating. And it's
Right.
such an easy phrase,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's it. I think that's one of the ways that you're able to take that child's, because they're in a very, yeah, their personality's developed, but they're still in a very uh, moldable position in life, and and typically coming out of that going, okay, well, the sky's the limit, or you know what, this is the best I can get, and whether that's because somebody's told them that, or sort of like in your situation where it's like, oh, I didn't get into the 8 schools that I wanted to get into for college, and my counselor told me I'm no good for college, so maybe I just don't even try. When
yeah,
there's other places and there's other opportunities out there, and so a big piece of that Be Limitless, in my opinion, and like the way I see it, is there's there's so many doors you have to knock on, right? You don't just go like, oh, I'll knock on this door. It didn't open. Oh well, I'm gonna stop.
right.
Right? It's just
Yes.
keep going and keep trying, because you
Mhm.
know, and you've sort of touched on this a little bit, but it's like in your life you've transitioned between different things, right? Like times change, you change, people change, and the people around you change, and so what you're doing when you first come out of high school compared to what you're going to wind up doing when you're 45 or 60 could be a completely different ends of the spectrum, as far as a traditional career outlook,
Right.
right? But you get back to the very basic of who you are, is that all of that stuff you're still helping people.
Yes. That's it. Throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
That's it. You said it. Social work, insurance, this book, what I'm going to do. Like yesterday, this couple called me up, and, I sell health insurance part-time.
Mhm.
And these people, I don't know how they got my name and number,
Yeah.
but they're like, we're with blah, blah, blah company and we've got problems. I'm like, I don't think I'm your agent. Am I? Oh, no, you're not. And it's like, I don't care. So let's call a company. So we call the company and we solved their problems
Right.
and they thanked me. And I said, you call me anytime, I'll help you.
Right.
That's all I want to do.
Yep.
So
Yep.
every day, like what have you done? Have you made a difference?
Mhm.
Me, it's kind of like, well, if I helped anyone today, even helping myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I've over the years, I've transitioned from eating a lot of red meat and sugar substances and things like that. And
Yeah.
now I'm more a pescatarian,
Yeah.
and I try to exercise and I don't take in very much sugar and
Hmm.
things
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So I've not stopped growing,
Yeah.
not stopped. I mean, to me, life is a journey,
Oh yeah.
and it's a series of journeys. And I do really think that we all have a kind of special calling, and when you find that calling, you just know it. Like, wasn't it Tony Bennett that said he's never worked a day in his
Yeah.
life?
Yeah.
Right? Why?
Yep.
Because he's a singer. He found
Yeah.
his calling.
Yep.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Mark Twain, one of his sayings is, um, the two most important days of your life are the day that you were born
Hmm.
and the day when you find out why.
Right. Yep.
That's it. You
Yep.
find out why.
Yep.
What's the why? Why
Well,
are you here?
and when you find that why, a lot of times, at least the people that I've talked to that I know, they're like, oh yeah, this is like, like myself, like you, like it's like all of a sudden you start talking to them and they're like, well, why isn't this possible? Why isn't that possible? Why can't you do this? Like the doors open up, and when you find out that this is versus, when I was one of the early jobs I had in my career, I was managing a temporary staffing office, and I was like, well, I punched the clock, like, like I help people. I helped them find jobs. I did all that, and that was satisfying, but it's it was definitely a situation where I was like, okay, I'm going to work versus now where I'm in what I'm doing now. And it's just like people ask me, they're like, how much? I'm like, I have no idea how much I work. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like how many hours a day? I don't know. And one of my clients last week was like, asked me like, hey, what did you do on the weekend? You take a day off? And I was like, no. They're like, you didn't take it. I was like, no. When's the last time you took a day off? I was like, well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by a day off. Like, because I think I work every single day, not a full 8-hour day like most people think, but I do something to help someone in my area of passion every day because that's what
Yeah.
I'm called to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's isn't it great? I mean, it's
Oh,
just like
absolutely.
this feeling that, man, this is why I'm here,
Yep.
and this gives me such joy.
Yep.
I mean, if people, and again, I'm not trying to push the book, and then to
Sure.
me, that is, if I can help someone, fine. That's all I want to do. But I mean, there's
Right.
examples in there, and I have this scene in the story about the monarch where these two kids they're in an elderly home. Hmm?
Hmm.
And there's um, a place where it's an enclosed space, but an open space, and there's a bunch of milkweed, and
Okay. Yep.
there's a bunch of monarchs,
Yeah.
and like hundreds of monarchs. And these kids, they walk out into the middle and they sit down and they close their eyes, and then these monarchs come in, that they touch them, and they get this sensation that I imagine is somewhat like finding your calling.
Hmm.
It's just this joy, this
Yeah.
grace, just a beautiful feeling.
Yeah.
And so then those kids kind of float out of the
Hmm.
room, so to
Yeah.
speak, you
Yeah.
know. And I mean, that's what I want to do, is to tell people, hey, there's such beauty in this world, and
Hmm.
there's so many limitless possibilities for you. And if you just believe in yourself, and you
Yeah.
find others who believe in you, and you believe in them, and
Hmm.
then it becomes this mantra, this like, man, we can just be as limitless as we decide that
Right.
we want to be.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, the opportunity for me to go from social work in the mental health field, a guy showed up I was in private practice,
Hmm.
and he showed up in my office, and he said, I'm a I probably shouldn't say that, but farmer's agent.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, you are? And I'm thinking of getting out of the mental health field. And I've always kind of thought insurance might be a fun thing to do.
Right.
And he said, okay, let me sign you up.
Yeah.
So I didn't ask him. I didn't
Right.
call him. I didn't
Yeah.
seek him out.
Yeah.
I still don't know how he got my number, and the address. So
Yeah.
he showed up and I was ready. And so I made the leap,
Right.
So
Well,
opportunities present themselves.
right. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when those opportunities present themselves, if you love yourself, it's easier to see them, right?
Yep.
If you don't have that self-love, and you don't even have to necessarily be sharing it with everybody, but if you don't at least have that self-love of yourself, it's hard to see those because you're it's almost like you're distracted trying to figure out how to find joy, how to make yourself happy, how to do all those things, and you miss the opportunities that are there that will bring you joy and then make you happy and like all the things you're
Yep.
looking for.
Yeah. And that's part of Maslow's hierarchy is you have to fulfill the most basic needs
Mhm.
for food, shelter, employment, things like that.
Mhm.
And then you can move up and you have this internal desire to move up.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you get bored with what you have. And
Right.
so you're seeking something new. And
Mhm.
so then you move up to more looking at love, affiliation, self esteem, where
Right.
you believe in yourself. You deserve respect. You deserve to have good things.
Yeah.
And so you're always kind of like open to possibilities.
Right. Um, so that's why that self-love is so necessary to our overall health, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because without it, like it whether it's our mental health or our physical health or spiritual health or what, like without being able to look at ourselves and say, I'm happy with, and and granted, there's always ways and things that we want to do to get better, but it's almost like that, like it's not being satisfied, but being happy with where I have and who I am, knowing that I'm progressing to be somebody else. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's this core fundamental feeling that you're worthwhile
Right.
and that you deserve to live a life where you can feel accomplished, a part of something, and that there are possibilities to grow.
Yeah.
I honestly, Jerry, I never in my life, I used to watch the television shows from the 60s and the
Mhm.
70s and the middle class Americans and
Right.
living in their house with their 3 bedrooms and 2 car garage and
Yeah.
things like that. And to me, versus where I was, that was a dream,
Oh yeah. I'm
you
sure.
know? And now I live that.
Yeah.
I live that every day.
Mhm.
And I just sometimes I sit back and I just like, thank you so much. I never thought I would be where I am. I
Yeah.
had no idea. It's just
Yeah.
it's like every day is a dream.
Yeah.
In kind of the gambling analogy, it's like I'm living on house money.
Right. Yep. Yep.
I
Well,
can't lose.
and you sort of touched on it there, but like I think that's an important piece for everybody to and they may not be able to have that same type of comparison, but be able to have a moment of gratitude every day for what they do have, who they are,
Yeah.
and because then again it opens up more doors. But if you're always sitting there going, well, I'm not this and I'm not that and I don't have this and I wish that this would happen or I wish that I had these things or that this person would change my life in this way or like a lot of times we're not looking at ourselves and giving ourselves credit for what we have and who we are, and that shuts the
Mhm.
doors for us.
Yeah. Yeah. There are other um, psychologists and such, and the one book, the Big Leap.
Mhm.
They talk
Yep.
about reaching. well, it's kind of like a glass ceiling, but it's not a glass ceiling. It's where you only think you're capable of going so far.
Right.
And you sabotage yourself,
Right.
self-sabotage.
Yeah.
If you get to success or near success, then you find a way to make yourself tumble back down.
Right.
I love my son dearly. He had his own little, hard road growing up and such,
Sure.
and he does have some of that mentality. I mean, he'll get so far and then he will somewhat
Yeah.
sabotage himself,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And
Yeah.
I talk with him and I give him the examples that he provides from his own life.
Hmm.
And then it's up to him. But
Yeah.
I constantly do for him what was done for me.
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, it's anything is possible.
Well, and one of the things so I train a lot of athletes, and one of the things I always tell them, especially before a big competition or something, is do you think you can win? Not are you going to win, not are you going to try to win, because I think if you wouldn't be competing if you weren't trying to win, but do you think you can win? And I'm surprised how many people say, actually, I don't think I can win. And I'm
Really?
like, really? Like, okay, let's talk about that because I've seen it, and some of the athletes that I've had that have told me in the past, like, I don't think I can win, and they've been in a position in a competition where it's like it's right there, they're right, and then they sabotage themselves and get second place, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was right there, you had it, and I've seen you do this in practice, like I knew you were capable of it, like, and I could see the switch go off of like, I don't think I can do this, and I think that's a big piece that I now bring to all the people I work with is like whether it's an athletic competition or you know a health situation or whatever. It's like if you don't think you can get there, that's where we have to start. Forget the nutrition plan, forget the exercise plan, forget like why do we not think that we can get there? Because
Yeah,
if you don't, like, and then you could try everything in the world, you're going to sabotage yourself.
yeah, yeah. I agree. And that's where, I mean, Maslow talks about peak experiences,
Hmm.
and using an athlete is a great example. I mean, God, I mean, how do some of these guys like catch the balls that they catch? I mean, it
Right,
must be like a peak experience right there. They're kind of like, and they've talked about it, right? Where they don't even know it's them that's doing it.
right,
They perform.
yeah,
It occurs, and it occurs because they're right there in the moment and they're living the moment, and the moment includes I got this.
right, yeah,
Right, not
yeah,
I dropped it. you
right,
know
yep,
so
yep.
that's it. I mean, and that could be like my brother, the one that has the Juris Doctorate and
Hmm.
such. I was surprised because this guy, he's pretty hardcore and kind of anal retentive.
Yeah.
But his calling is to be a father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the things that he's accomplished and such, his calling is to be a father.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay. That's what brings him the most joy.
Right. Right.
And he feels that he's in his element.
Right.
That is his greatest experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
That's
thought
cool.
that was really cool.
Yeah, that is. Um, and so the be limitless, be love piece, like I could tell where you came up with all of that and put it all together and piece it all together. And I think it's great. Like, how can people that are listening to this like connect? I know the book's on Amazon, and I'll put the link for that in the show notes. But like,
Mhm.
is there another way they can connect with you and just in get more information about what you're doing in the movement you're trying to get going?
I'm in the stage of developing this more. I do have a website. It's
Mhm.
belimitlessbelove.com.
Okay.
And so there's going to be articles and things appearing here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I plan on I hope, starting some kind of blog
Okay. Cool.
to get information from people and share experiences. And I mean, you said it. I mean, my fantasy,
Hmm.
is that this would become somewhat of a movement. I
Right.
mean, I think that there's so much negativity out in the world and all these negative
Yeah.
messages and people getting into tribes. And this is another way to look at us all being one tribe,
Right. Yep.
and that we all can advance each other.
Yeah.
And why another reason, really, admittedly, that I chose teenagers is, I mean, for people my age, we're pretty set in how we think, act,
Yeah.
do, etc.
Right.
People that age, reality is whatever the majority decides it is.
Yeah. That's
And if
true.
the majority of those kids, they all, or a majority of them, get together and say, hey, we're going to make this world one where we're going to survive. We're
Yeah.
going to clean it up. We're going to treat each other all with respect and things like that. They, I think, are the hope for our future.
Right. Yep.
And I could still change, and hopefully I have evolved somewhat and
Sure.
want to be a part of this. And whoever else would like to, wherever your calling is and your desires, and nothing political about this or
Right.
like that. But I would like to see people start having that balance where
Right.
it can be all of us. It doesn't have to be tribes and
Mhm.
one's right and one's wrong. And
Right.
we can respect each other. We can love each other. We can advance each other.
Yeah.
So that's what I am going to strive to do, is to start a blog and share stories. And so Be Limitless, beloved.com, and
Yeah.
then the books on Amazon. And there's, lots of different cool products that, I
Yeah.
have. These seem to be real popular
Right.
for Valentine's Day.
Yes. Of course. Well,
And
one of the things I keep thinking in my head, and so I'm going to bring the illustration out, because the self-love piece for everybody that's ever been on an airplane or, watched a movie about an airplane, and the the flight attendants talk about, if we lose cabin pressure, the little, bag's going to fly down. You put your mask on first, and then you help the child or elderly or person next to you help, because if you can't take care of yourself first, you're not going to be much help for the other person, in a short amount of
right,
time. Um, but at no point in there do they say, ask them what their beliefs are, and if they match yours, then take care of them, right? Or anything like that. It's put yours on, and then help whoever's near you that needs help. And I see that same type of thing in what you're talking about. Is like, you know, find your own way of loving yourself, open to any possibility out there, and find your calling and your passion, and then spread that and help everybody else. And we all live a better life if we do that,
that's it.
you know?
I could not say it better, Jerry.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's it.
So,
That's
and
what
I
I
think
like to
that's
convey.
like, I applaud you for doing that. I applaud you for being able to put yourself out there, because in today's culture, I think it's something that a lot of people want and need, but are scared to attempt,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So
Well, thank you.
you're
I
welcome.
truly, I appreciate that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
this has been really, I truly have enjoyed this.
That's awesome.
I thank you very
Good.
much.
Of course. So as we close up, is there, for the person out there that maybe doesn't have a clue what self-love is, right? They're like at the base, they don't have, they need to start figuring this out. They, for whatever reason, they like, is there something that you could tell them to be like, okay, here's how you start this way of finding yourself and finding out how to love yourself?
It's a good question. Um, well, I mean, I would say to just take a good hard look at yourself and find the positives in you. I don't care what they are or how minute they are. We all have positives.
Yep.
And if you look at those, and this goes back to therapy and all that kind of stuff, but if you look at what's positive in you, and then you go out and you do that positive thing. I don't care what it is. If it's eating one good meal a day, if you walk around the block, you know, if you get a nice haircut, right? Yeah. I don't care what it is. Go do it and applaud yourself for it.
Right.
And then go do it again. And then it's like, you know, that felt good. Well, let me try this other little thing. And then to really get out there on the internet, you know, find books about self-help. And I mean, that helped me a lot too, you know, because of my upbringing and just one parent and such. The psychology books that I read, the self-help books that I've read, you know, all kinds of things. I mean, Don Miguel Ruiz, Dan Millman. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Read those things because that gave me such a good idea about what is health, you know, and how I could self-talk. It's about, and that's part of Maslow's thing with his whole philosophy is positive self-talk.
Right.
Do that. Do that.
Yep. So
that's what I would suggest.
I love it. Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, it has. I really, truly, I appreciate it. I wish you the best and great success.
Thank you. Thanks for checking out the Confidence Through Health podcast. Please subscribe, post a review, share this episode with those you love who need a little extra help with their health journey. Visit allinhealthandwellness.com to learn more about the coaching programs that I provide. All episodes are produced by the Social Media Cowboys, your source for all online marketing needs. Go to socialmediacowboys.com for more information.